What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Thursday, February 4th. Yes, really, Thursday, February 4th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. So I want to apologize for yesterday's video. I accidentally uploaded the previous day's video. I'm so sorry, guys. I had 11 great picks for you, and for some reason the video was saved into another folder, and then I uploaded the previous day's video. YouTube didn't tell me it was a duplicate, so I apologize for that. But let's get into today's NBA slate. At the point guard position, I like John Wall from the Houston Rockets playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. John Wall has averaged 34.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. He scored 39 and 35 fantasy points in the last two games, playing 21 and 26 minutes. He's projected at 38.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $7,500 FanDuel salary and $600 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. He's coming off of a day of rest, so his legs are fresh. He's good to go. So I like John Wall here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. The other point guard that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing point guards. Jamal Murray has averaged 32.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 30, 46, and 28 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 33, 35, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 32.3 fantasy points here tonight. Now, that's only 4.1 times value on FanDuel because he's $7,800 FanDuel salary, but he's $1,000 less on DraftKings. Now, this guy's got 50 plus fantasy point upside, super cheap on DraftKings, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 219.5 points scored in this game. So I like Jamal Murray, especially on DraftKings here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I had this pick in my video yesterday. I've been on this guy. He finally popped off yesterday. Kevin Huerter from the Atlanta Hawks playing the Utah Jazz, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing shooting guards. Kevin Huerter has averaged 24.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 46, 19, and 19 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 38, 39, and 29 minutes. So it just seemed like it was a matter of time before he finally put up a big score. That happened yesterday. He's playing a ton of minutes, and he's projected at 26.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.9 times value. He's still only $4,500 FanDuel salary, but he is $1,000 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 224 points scored in this game, so I like Kevin Huerter here versus the Utah Jazz. The other shooting guard that I like is Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and although they've been pretty good versus opposing shooting guards, Donovan Mitchell has averaged 35.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He scored 43 and 17 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 34 and 31 minutes. He's projected at 35.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value. He's $7,800 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. But the reason that I like this pick is because he scored 42, 43, and 48 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Atlanta Hawks. And we know Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 224 points scored in this game. So I like Donovan Mitchell here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Dorian Finney-Smith from the Dallas Mavericks playing the Golden State Warriors, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, but they give up the second most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Dorian Finney-Smith has averaged 19.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He scored 21, 15, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 37, and 34 minutes. He's projected at 19.7 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.1 times value. He's $3,900 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. So he's got a great matchup. He's playing a ton of minutes. So I like Dorian Finney-Smith here versus the Golden State Warriors. Another value play that I like at the small forward position is Danny Green from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 3rd worst defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Danny Green has averaged 21.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 30, 17, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 21, and 23 minutes. He's projected at 21.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's $4,200 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. So this is a great matchup. So I like Danny Green here versus the Portland Trailblazers. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, who do we have at the power forward position? I like Anthony Davis from the LA Lakers playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing power forwards. Anthony Davis has averaged 45.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. He scored 37 and 52 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 35 and 35 minutes. He's projected at 47.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value on FanDuel because he's $10,300 FanDuel salary, but he's $600 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. So I like Anthony Davis here versus the Denver Nuggets. Another power forward that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a good defense overall, and they give up the second most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Draymond Green has averaged 22.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He scored 33, 21, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 27, and 24 minutes. Now, he's only projected at 23.5 fantasy points here tonight. I think he's going to get 30 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more. But on FanDuel, that's only 4.1 times value if he scores the 23.5 fantasy points, because he's 5,800 FanDuel salary, but he's 600 less on DraftKings. So he's only going to need around 25 fantasy points on DraftKings to get you 5 times value or more. It's a good matchup, so I like Draymond Green here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, moving on to the center position. If you have the extra salary, if that value opens up from late breaking injuries or COVID news, take a look at Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers. But Nikola Jokic has averaged 56.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He scored 75, 57, and 41 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 38, and 34 minutes. He's projected at 58 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 11,000 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. So what you're hoping for here is that this is a close, competitive game, and Jokic is playing all the way until the fourth quarter, until the very end of the game, where you're going to get max value from these studs. So I like Nikola Jokic here versus the LA Lakers. Another center that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have the middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Rudy Gobert has averaged 39.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. Now, he flopped the last time I picked him. I had high expectations, but he's only scored 26, 26, and 33 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 25, and 25 minutes. But he is projected at 39.2 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.6 times value because he's 8,500 FanDuel salary, but he's 1,000 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game, 224 points scored in this game. So I like Rudy Gobert here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Now on DraftKings, if you're looking for a value play, take a look at Gorgie Dang from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Houston Rockets, who have the middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Gorgie Dang has averaged 21.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 19 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He scored 18, 33, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 25, 24, and 26 minutes. He's projected at 24 fantasy points here tonight. On FanDuel, that's 4.5 times value because he's 5,300 FanDuel salary, but he's 900 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So I like Gorgie Dang on DraftKings here versus the Houston Rockets.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.